In the opening scene, we are introduced to Jane and Adam, who are astronauts working with NASA. They sit on the floor of their spaceship playing chess and arguing if the government should deploy every necessary means to save an astronaut lost in space. Adam believes that the astronaut's life is worth the sacrifice, but Jane thinks otherwise because the amount of money put in to save one person could be deployed to save about 833 million people perishing from hunger and war. After Adam checkmates her, the atmosphere gets pensive with neither of them saying a word until he breaks the silence. They are on a NASA mission which has taken a detour, and now their ship develops a fault making them stuck in space. Adam seeks to find some hope as he asks Jane if she thinks anyone will come to save them. She smiles and informs him that they should probably take their minds off anyone coming to save them. Rather, they might need to find a way to save themselves or accept the inevitability of their fates. She suggests they go on another round of the game to pass the time. It doesn't look like help will be coming anytime soon, so the two astronauts decide to make the most use of their time in the drifting spaceship judiciously. They grow their food and utilize their intelligence to provide every other need of theirs in the enormous spaceship. With each passing day, everything seems to become normal for them as they turn the spaceship into another home away from their real home. They are in the third year of their mission, and they keep trying all they can to get communication from Earth, but it proves abortive. The duo keeps records of the number of days spent on the spaceship. Since they are the only humans in the spaceship, they engage in various exercises and activities together. In no time, they become like best of friends. While exercising their bodies, Jane casually cautions Adam for masturbating in the greenhouse. She reminds him that it is where their food grows and the hens nest there as well. He warns her to stop slut-shaming him, and then suddenly suggests maybe they should have course instead of masturbating. She laughs hard at his idea because it's not going to happen, but he reminds her that they are doomed to spend the rest of their miserable lives floating around on the ship. He clarifies that they don't have to be romantic about it since Jane needs a reason to get laid with him. Adam informs her that the idea is to use sex as a stress reliever. She groans as he accidentally hits a spot on her leg. Adam checks it out and realizes that she has a cut that needs to be treated so the infection doesn't spread, but she refuses. She reminds him that they have just a course of antibiotics left, and she wouldn't want to waste it on a minor cut. At the sickbay, they argue about the treatment for some time, and Adam brings up the sex topic again as he helps clean up the cut. Jane brings up strong reasons why she thinks they shouldn't do it, but he makes her realize that it's even best if they are not attracted to each other. That way things won't get messy. Jane stands on her ground because if they start banging, as he calls it, their hormones will react, and they will eventually develop feelings for each other. They debate about her reason number one for quite some time. Eventually, Adam gives up and requests to know her reason number two. Jane reminds him that they are both married. She lifts her hand and shows him the ring on her fourth finger. Adam tries to convince her that they can go ahead with it, as there is no hope of them ever getting out of the spaceship or meeting their partners. Jane corrects him that there is a hope of them fixing the machine, which means they can communicate back to Earth, and just maybe they'll go back home. He laughs at her thought because there are hundreds of wires, which implies billions of possible combinations. He assures her that fixing the machine is a total waste of time. She feels frustrated, but she'd rather keep trying. Jane reminds him that her husband and her have been together since college, and they are very committed to each other. She questions his love for his wife, Savannah, when he's legit begging her to cheat with him. Adam clarifies that he's not begging her to cheat with him. Rather, it's a debate between friends to pass the time. Jane tries something one more time and asks him to flip the control, hoping it will work. Unfortunately, the navigation test fails. The time system in space seems messed up, since Adam finds it difficult to keep up with a week or day that has passed. They make several attempts to repair the comms and navigation system, but it continually fails. Jane wishes the engineers could have just labeled the wires. Later, they decide to see a movie and Jane pleads with Adam to try something else, because she's seen the one he's suggesting 1,000 times. She picks up a tape and promises he will enjoy watching Alien. 117 minutes later, Adam wraps up himself scared after seeing the movie. He pleads with her to walk him to the bathroom, and she smiles in surprise as she has never seen him that scared. Later, he wakes her up pleading with her to let him share her bed because he's still scared, and he doesn't think the chickens will protect him. Jane obliges him. He climbs up and uses his blanket to demarcate the bed so they can sleep. The next morning, she ends up in his arms while they are sleeping. The voice of the ship's robot wakes her up, informing them that it's day 1022. Jane opens her eyes and finds her head on Adam's chest, and she's naked. She tries to quietly get away, but Adam already wakes up. They engage in a bit of an awkward conversation before getting out of bed to carry out their daily routine. Adam tends to the greenhouse and the goat there. In a bid to have some fun, he decides to train the goat to run and catch like a dog. Meanwhile, Jane continues her trials with the ship's repair, but all tests keep failing. Later on, Adam checks on her injury, and she brings back the incident from the morning when her boobs were on his chest while they were sleeping. He thinks she's stylishly telling him that she wants to naked cuddle some more, and he's surprised she's willing after objecting several times. He informs her that cuddling is on the same sliding scale as banging to him. Jane takes a minute to think about it. Then she gets up and turns on a salsa beat so they can do their dance exercise. After several twirls while dancing, she reminds him that he didn't bother asking what is her reason number 3 for not wanting them to bang. Later, while she's helping him draw some tattoos on his back, Adam confesses his surprise to hear that she doesn't have birth control and there wasn't a provision for condoms or medical plan B. He thinks it is bad planning. He raises a question for argument's sake, and Jane stares at him in disbelief. She questions if he wants to raise a child adrift in space. She believes he must be out of his mind for even considering having kids in space. Adam reveals to her that there is a possibility that she's sterile because of all the radiation they've been exposed to since they got into space. Jane scoffs and walks away from him, and she calls him a jerk. He apologizes because he didn't want to say it, but he had to. Jane walks to the living area, pacing up and down and talking to the skeleton of a crew member, Benson, who's the 3rd Voyager in their ship. She blames Adam for only wanting sex, though she did turn 4 different electric drills into vibrators, but she thinks she was just being innovative. Jane sits laughing and talking to Benson all by herself as she shares how her marriage with Tom has been. She thinks he must have thought this mission would be her ultimate mission, after which she will come back to him. Adam confides in Benson about Jane's attitude, but then he believes Savannah would understand his situation. He goes over the video messages she sent to him some time back, and he feels sorry for leaving her all to herself. He wishes she could move on instead of waiting for him. Jane lays on her bed listening to Tom's message all over again with her eyes closed and tears rolling down the sides of her eyes. Later, Jane gets up to play some music, hoping it'll help distract her mind. She inserts the tape into the player, but it refuses to play. She suddenly feels tense and calls for Adam to come to check why it's not playing. He detects the problem and reveals to her that the root file for her music is corrupted. She suddenly breaks down and begins to whimper because she can't imagine coping without her soothing music, and she can't listen to his because it sucks. He asks for her favorite music and wears her headphones. Then he begins to sing Lionel Richie's All Night Long in a bid to help her overcome the fear of never listening to the song again. Adam gives her some comfort, and in a few minutes Jane stops whimpering as she joins him to sing her favorite song. To pass the time, they help each other draw more tattoos and talk to the goat, and Adam helps in Jane's attempt to fix the ship. Later, they monitor the marijuana Adam planted. He believes it'll flower soon, and he's going to be a billionaire when he gets back to Earth. Jane reminds him that he has to cook or bake the plant before he can get high on it, but he doesn't want to. Later, she helps him to bake his favorite Pop-Tart, and he hugs her tightly in appreciation. He has eaten the last one he had, believing he may never have a taste of it again. As the days go by, the duo continue their routine and try to make the most of the time they have to be alive if they don't get help. Something unfortunate happens, causing Adam to feel downcast. He walks over to Jane and asks her to follow him to the greenhouse. Unfortunately, the goat, which has been a companion to both of them, has passed away. They feel sad about the goat, and Sarah suggests they take out the body before the hens see it. A few minutes later, the goat is fully prepared for consumption, but Adam argues that they don't have to eat it because they didn't eat Benson. Jane reminds him Benson was a person, but the goat was with them for food and milk purposes. She reveals that they only have about 12 pints of milk left in the freezer, and now they also have 50+ meals worth of meat. She suggests they take a bite of the meat at the same time since they are finding it difficult to feed on the meat. After having a taste, the duo relish the savor of meat, as it has been a long time since they ate such. They make a frame in memory of the goat and hang it on the kitchen cabinet. Their ship continues to drift between Jupiter and Saturn. One day, Jane wakes up amid pain as her injury is beginning to get infected. She's forced to take the last antibiotics they have left to prevent her health from taking a worse turn. A while later, Jane questions why Adam has requested for them to make out like he used to always do. She thinks of compromising her stand on the issue, so she starts up the discussion. She needs to be certain that he also finds her attractive, because she has seen the lines of his in his gym shorts, and she sort of feels that he won't disappoint her sexually. She feels a bit emotional and confesses that Adam is not her only coworker or friend, and the only one who can check up on her at the moment. For her, Adam is her entire world, but she worries if he's bad at lovemaking or feels the need to be sexually dominant over her. After much deliberation, they finally agree to get laid the following night. Jane mentions a few things she wouldn't want them to do, and Adam thinks he can cope without them. A new day breaks, and the duo go about their usual routine like they normally do. In between, Jane performs some personal cleaning on her body in anticipation of later that night, while Adam rehearses how he's going to let his lines flow, so it doesn't sound as if he's only interested in the sex thing. Jane tries fixing the ship's machine for the umpteenth time, but she gets an error message for the comms settings. Fortunately, the navigation system works, and it activates immediately when she taps on it. Both of them are in shock, and she suggests they can try navigating their way back to Earth. But since the comms failed, she thinks they might take as much as 3 weeks to get back to Earth. The both of them stare at each other with passion burning in their eyes, and they are uncertain if they can hold themselves till 3 weeks. Jane suddenly jumps on Adam, kissing him with so much vigor. They make love in almost every corner of the ship. Left with about 2 weeks to get back home, the duo continues exploring their bodies and quenching the rage in their hormones, as they are unable to hold their bodies any longer. At intervals, they do other things and ensure they are on track to Earth. Adam draws a few tattoos on Jane's butt. He wonders how she's going to explain the tattoos to her husband when he sees them. She tells him not to worry about that because she believes when the time comes she will find a way around it. Remaining 2 days and 11 hours for them to arrive on Earth, the duo feels weird not knowing what to expect when they get back to their families. They wonder what it will be like to be back on Earth. Adam's imagination runs wild as he wonders about the possible inventions and changes that might have taken place. Jane reminds him that it has only been 3 years since they left, so he shouldn't expect much change. Although everything must have changed, she believes they will still be the very same person they used to be. They spend the time discussing their expectations and the things they look forward to when they get back to Earth. Jane wonders if her husband might have gotten a girl to marry and probably filled her up with babies. She hopes to finally get off the ship and do everything she has missed doing, especially hearing her song once again. Adam wonders if they will still be best of friends when they get back to Earth. He hopes that their sexual explorations will not come in as a hindrance to their friendship later on. He quotes her as he confesses that she has been his entire world for 3 good years. Jane reveals that his world is about to get a bit bigger than it used to be. She gets up and turns on the music. They once again engage in their dance activity to free up their minds and ease the tension. A few minutes before their arrival time, the both of them kit up in their full uniform and take up their seats in preparation for landing. Adam commends Jane for her effort and persistence in continuously doing repairs. If it hadn't been for her, they probably might still be drifting far off in space. Seconds to their arrival, the pressure gets intense as things begin to fall apart on the ship. The outer part of the spaceship wears off and reveals a plane which they safely bring to landing. In the next scene, they are faced with hundreds of reporters clamoring to hear their story. In the meeting NASA organized, Jane and Adam sit before the panel of reporters as they look around like some lost beings not knowing what to expect. The representative of NASA announces the passing of the lead medical officer, Megan Benson. In the course of his speech, Adam is surprised to hear that his wife is now a governor and not just a mayor. The reporters start asking numerous questions regarding the passing of Benson. Jane recounts all that happened and how they fought. She answers the curious reporter, informing them that Benson passed on in her sleep, which could have been caused by cardiac arrest or aneurysm. Savannah suddenly enters the room and Adam runs to meet his wife. Jane watches as they kiss each other before taking their leave, but there's no sign of her husband. She wonders how Adam could just leave her behind without saying a simple goodbye. Later, she sits in one of the medical rooms when Tom comes in search of her. The first thing that crosses Jane's mind is to assure her husband that it's okay if he pulls a castaway on her and marries someone else. Tom disappoints her as he shows her his ring, saying he's still very much married to her. He doesn't want them to begin talking about all that, but Jane wants to know. He reveals to her that his sister had set him up with someone a year after everyone thought she was probably deceased. He started a few other things, but nothing ever became serious as they couldn't hold a candle to her. Jane smiles happily and kisses her husband. Adam and his wife are discussing the incident. Savannah apologizes for the kiss thing earlier as she was terrified and didn't know what to do. She never imagined seeing him again after 3 years. She knows that he doesn't like the idea of the governor thing, so she starts explaining what led to it. However, he reveals to her that he's proud of her, so she doesn't need to explain anything to him. Adam and Jane undergo a few more interviews with NASA's reps, and they narrate all the incidents that took place on their voyage, as well as the discoveries they made. Later, they are allowed to take their leave, but the security men are yet to keep the reporters outside at bay, so they have to wait a bit longer. Jane is standing with Tom playing romantically when Savannah approaches them with Adam by her side. The four of them exchange pleasantries and chat about subsequent events when their discharge papers are brought for them to sign. Savannah suggests she and Tom handle the papers while Adam and Jane take a few minutes to say their goodbyes. Adam asks if she's willing to keep in touch and be a part of his life, but Jane declines. She informs him that what they had up there was not real, but they are back to real life now, and she wouldn't want to complicate things. Savannah and Tom soon get back. They all bid each other goodbye, but Adam wears a long face as he walks away with his wife beside him. Subsequently, Adam gets on TV to be interviewed by his wife. He's glad to be back home, but then things aren't the same since his wife is a governor, and now he feels like a schlub in the relationship. However, they try to rekindle the spark in their relationship with every given opportunity. Tom dislikes tattoos, but he seems to like the ones on Jane's body. He feels the tattoos tell stories of her voyage and all her experiences. They chat a bit about the happenings in the spaceship. Jane suggests they go on a trip to Iceland to see the Northern Lights. She feels it will be a nice way to reconnect. Tom understands that she has been stuck in a box for 3 years, so she might want to travel around. So he obliges her request, knowing it'll make her happy. Things didn't remain the same, even though Adam had to attend events with his governor's wife. Everything reminds him and Jane of the time spent on the ship. He tries to reach out to her, but she refuses to respond or reply to any of his messages. At Savannah's residence, she complains about the chickens pooping on her shoes. She suggests they move the coop outside the house, but Adam tries to convince her otherwise. In the next scene, Jane is jogging with her earphones playing her favorite song. She remembers the ship and Adam. In no time, she starts panting and panicking. Later in the day, she looks through some dance videos online and suggests that Tom take a dance class with her. Tom laughs and declines to dance with her. He receives a text on his phone and Jane catches sight of the sender. She asks to know who the sender, Amber, is. Judging from Tom's reaction, she's certain there is more to it, so she presses on. He admits that they went out on a few dates recently. To his surprise, Jane suddenly starts encouraging him to call the lady back and communicate with her. He realizes that there's more to her insisting he calls Amber so. He asks that she tell him what's going on. Jane can no longer bear the guilt, so she confesses to sleeping with Adam. Tom is utterly speechless as he looks at her and stares back into nothingness. In the next scene, Adam is on his way to a meet and greet with his wife, but he looks so unhappy. She asks what's wrong with him. He feels like the expectations she has to meet as a governor are just too much, and he can't keep up. But he isn't willing to talk about the major thing bothering him. Savannah promises to check out a few things she can take off her schedule so they can spend some more time together. They arrive at the event, which Jane is also present. They meet up with her, and Savannah asks about Tom. Jane claims that he has the flu, when in truth they are splitting up. Adam and Jane barely say a word to each other as she focuses more on his wife. However, he suspects there is some crisis in her marriage that she is letting out. While the event is ongoing, the Madam President walks over to Jane and Adam requesting they honor her with their dance because she has heard that they are great dancers. The crowd begins to cheer as the duo walks over to the stage. They dance beautifully, recalling memories of their closeness from when they were stuck in the spaceship. It's as though the world stands still, while they are in their world tempted to kiss each other's lips passionately. They don't know when the song ends, but the applause from the audience brings them back to reality. Savannah sees the closeness between the duo, and she doesn't find it quite comfortable. After the event, the president comes to greet Adam and his wife, but his attention is more focused on Jane, who is sitting alone on her table. On their way out, Adam stops walking. Savannah knows that something is up, but he refuses to admit it. She understands that his heart must be elsewhere. Even though it hurts her, she kisses him and requests that he tell Jane she hates her. Savannah takes her leave as she walks back into the limo alone. Jane is surprised to see Adam walking back. He passes Savannah's message and kisses her lips. She puts a few things together and concludes that his wife must have been aware of what happened between them. He confesses how he feels about her and pulls her close for some more kisses until a camera takes their picture close by. The reporter walks away, leaving them there. Jane turns to Adam and asks if he would like to go on a trip with her. He gladly accepts the offer, and the duo sets out to enjoy and relive the beautiful moments they had on the spaceship towards the end of their voyage.